One mine nearly sank an American frigate. 4 days later, a limited retaliation became a one-day battle with Iran. How did two strikes spread across the Gulf, and why did Washington stop? On April 14, 1988, USS Samuel B was sailing northeast of Qatar when it struck a mine and nearly sank. 10 sailors suffered severe injuries. 4 were seriously burned. The frigate limped away from the minefield. Navy divers recovered other mines from the area. Their serial numbers matched mines previously recovered from the Iranian mine layer Iran Ajah. Washington blamed Iran and began planning retaliation. The International Court of Justice later called that evidence highly suggestive, but not conclusive proof that Iran had laid the specific mine which hit Samuel B. The battle began because Washington decided the evidence was sufficient to act, and the mine was already sitting inside a wider war. Iran and Iraq had been fighting since 1980. Their conflict had spread into the Persian Gulf, where merchant ships faced aircraft, missiles, small boats and mines. Kuwait asked outside powers to protect its tankers. The United States placed Kuwaiti ships under the American flag and escorted them through the Gulf under Operation Earnest Will. That put American warships inside the tanker war and within reach of its mines. The escort mission had already met that danger. On its first convoy, the reflagged supertanker Bridgerton struck a mine and survived. Months later, US forces captured Iran Ajah while it was laying mines in international shipping lanes. After Samuel B. was hit, the Reagan administration chose 2 Iranian offshore platforms as its targets, Sassan and Sirri. The White House said Iran used them to monitor shipping and coordinate attacks. It presented the operation as measured retaliation intended to deter further Iranian aggression. Measured was the plan. For 4 days, planners assembled 3 groups of American warships. By the morning of April 18th, each was in position. At Sassan, US ships delivered a radio warning and then opened fire. A second group struck Sirri minutes later. Sassan was shelled and boarded by Marines. They collected intelligence and set demolition charges. Sirri caught fire so heavily that its planned boarding was abandoned. The 2 strikes had begun as intended. Then, an Iranian missile boat entered the fight. Joshan approached one of the American groups. US ships repeatedly warned it away. It continued forward and launched a harpoon missile. Roughly 45 minutes passed between its approach and the launch. The confrontation had time to de-escalate. It did not. About 13 miles away, the American ships deployed chaff and maneuvered as the harpoon came in. The missile missed. American ships answered with missiles. Joshan was overwhelmed and sank. The imbalance was not the turning point. The turning point was that a strike on fixed platforms had become a fight with an Iranian warship. Elsewhere, Iranian fast boats attacked the Scan Bay, a Panamanian jack-up barge carrying 15 American workers. President Reagan personally authorized a strike against the boats, an expansion beyond defending a US warship or an American-flagged vessel. US aircraft sank the lead boat and drove 4 others toward Iranian-controlled Abu Musa. That authorization widened the operation again. American aircraft were now intervening to protect a non-US-flagged commercial vessel. The question was no longer whether the 2 platforms would be destroyed. It was how far the battle would spread. Then, US aircraft and warships attacked the Iranian frigate Sahand. The frigate sank several hours later. By late afternoon, another Iranian frigate appeared, Sabalan. Sabalan fired at an American A-6. The aircraft evaded the attack, returned and dropped a bomb that left the frigate dead in the water. American forces could have attacked again and sunk it. They did not. At the battle's peak, the decision was no longer whether American forces could destroy Sabalan. It was whether sinking a 3rd Iranian vessel still served the retaliation's original purpose. Senior US officials sent the order to leave Sabalan alone. Iranian tugs later reached the damaged ship and towed it back to port. That order did not undo the day. Sassan and Sirri had been attacked. Joshan and Sahand had sunk. Sabalan was crippled. Small boats had been sunk or driven away. A retaliation against two platforms had expanded into a battle across the Gulf. Nor was the day bloodless for the Americans. Marine captains Stephen Leslie and Kenneth Hill were killed when their AH-1T helicopter crashed after dark. They were the operation's only US deaths. The evidence packet does not establish that the aircraft was shot down. The ships and platforms also carried Iranian crews, but the surviving accounts do not yield one reliable casualty total. The argument over the opening mine also survived the battle. The International Court of Justice later found that the evidence before it did not establish Iran had laid the exact mine which struck Samuel B. Roberts. It also did not accept the American attacks as proven necessary acts of self-defense on that record. That judgment did not change what American commanders believed in 1988. It did expose the danger of compressing the history into Iran attacked, America answered, case closed. By the end of the day, 2 Iranian vessels had sunk, another was crippled, and 2 American Marines were dead. The clearest American stopping point came over Sabalan. Washington chose not to sink it. One mine had triggered a one-day battle. Ending it required another decision.